Well, good evening. This is Robert Phoenix, your host for the next hour and then some. You are listening to Sunday Far Sunday here on Free Association Radio. I'm your host. It is 10/10/10. A very auspicious day, a day where more weddings and more cesareans have been scheduled for any other day, I believe, until 11/11/11, or since 9/9/9. But in fact, today I was down at the Standard Cruise Beach and Boardwalk and actually saw a wedding taking place at the boardwalk on 10/10/10. So happy 10/10/10. You add it all up, it's 330. You take away the zeros, and it's 333, which is the little beast, mark of the little beast, junior beast. And it's been an interesting day, hasn't it, everyone? A lot has gone on today, certainly in my life and in the lives of others. I was talking with a friend over dinner tonight, and we discussed the process as psychic dredging. There's a lot of psychic dredging going on. And of course, we're going to find that because of planets like Venus and Mars in Scorpio, particularly Venus retrograde in Scorpio. It is a time to go back and clean out the pipes, clean out the emotional pipes. Going through it myself, and well, it's not fun. Let's put it that way. But it's essential if we want to be able to move forward. And man, do it. Do the work. Our friend up in Canada is a big advocate of doing it, and she's pretty good. Does a pretty good job of doing her version of the work. And so this is it. This is some heavy lifting, and I'll tell you why it's heavy lifting. Because in as much as we're doing the work right now to clear out the emotional pipes, I also feel like that this is a time, especially with once Venus goes direct in Scorpio, and we have Saturn in Libra. This is a time where we can meet some very influential and considerable people for our lives. That if we can blow out the pipes, then I think that we're ready to really connect with some very powerful people that we're meant to be with during very powerful times. And during these powerful times, two people together can create some wonderful magic. And indeed, magic is what's going to be needed to take us through the days, months, and years ahead. So speaking of magic tonight, my guest is going to be Katie Gallanti. And Katie is so she's a cryptographer. She's a psychic warrior. She does energy work. She does a lot of things. And I know that over the course of the last 48 hours, she's been dealing with a very sick neighbor. So she is not only working with people on a global level, but she's also working with people on a local level, like the person next door. And Katie and I have forged an interesting friendship. And we talk about a lot of different topics that we cover on the show here and my Farcasts. And we go down some pretty interesting places. So tonight, we don't really have an agenda. We're not really going to sit down and say we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z. We're just going to let it flow. And Katie's been pretty taxed with what's been going on with her friend next door. So, I'm going to clock her energy. I think she's good for an hour, and we'll see how it goes for the rest of the show. Maybe I'll take some calls. I doubt if I'll be on for an entire 2 hours tonight. I've had a pretty intense weekend myself. So I may decide to pack it in shortly after our time with Katie, who will join us in about 5 minutes. So the latest disaster, if you haven't figured it out yet, is the sludge coming down the Danube. And it's big, and it's ugly, and it's polluting one of Europe's great rivers. And we're going to talk to Katie. We're going to see if this is yet another controlled catastrophe that is continuing to foul and toxify our atmosphere and the biosphere that we live in. I wonder if they have any leftover core exit that they can throw in the Danube. Oh, I forgot. Europe doesn't allow core exit. One of the things that, again, most people don't know is that there is something that they could have used. I mean, let's say they wanted to go into the whole toxic dispersant solution for the golf. They could have used dispersant, which is roughly about 65% less toxic, I believe, than core exits. But unfortunately, BP did not have a share in Nalco. I mean, BP had a share in Nalco, did not have a stake in the company that was producing dispersant. So therefore, 40 million gallons worth of dispersant came into the Gulf. I got an email from my good friend Michael Edward, and let me see if I can read this off here. This is from his World Vision site. I'm only going to read about half of this. I'm going to urge you to go to his website and please read it and support it. I'm going to read you the first couple of paragraphs. It's Gulf Blue Plague, a lethal dose of arsenic and lies. This is the third part. Michael is such an amazing man, and he is tireless in his effort to get this stuff out there. Michael Edward is a true hero. He's a planetary hero. He's an American hero. I love him. And this is what he has to say. Gulf of Mexico coastal residents are civilian casualties of a chemical and biological warfare. We have most of the same toxins in our blood, and we share the same symptoms experienced by soldiers who survived and died after exposure to debilitating and deadly chemicals in the European trenches of World War I. While the rest of the world has been deliberately kept in the dark, the Gulf of Mexico has become a chemical and biological battleground. Our shorelines and coastal areas are now the front lines for this deadly war that will bring an onslaught of casualties during the next decade and beyond. We are all entrenched in a war for our survival and the survival of our families for generations to come. While the blue flu and the blue plague continue to affect more and more of us each day, our state and federal governments ignore us, lie to us, and call us everything from mentally ill to conspiracy theorists. Common sense dictates that the only conspiracy evolves from those who deliberately cover up the truth of what is taking place in the Gulf. The facts dictate that the chemical and biological war taking place here is surely no theory. One can only conclude that the true conspiracy theorists are those who are deliberately concealing the truth. There's a lot more to this. Michael goes into this in a very in-depth nature. He's got footnotes. So please go to his website, worldvisionportal.org. There's a forum view topic there. Just search keyword, Gulf Blue Plague, a lethal dose of arsenic. You can get the entire piece. I urge you to read it. I urge you to support his work. And certainly if not on a financial level, which I'm sure he would gladly like. I mean, Michael rescues animals. That's what he does. He's an animal rescuer. He has a sanctuary for animals. And if you can help him out with some of that, some of the heavy lifting there, and maybe helping him buy some minerals and some hay and some good stuff for his animals, would be great. If not, certainly the moral support and a prayer and a thank you, and I'm sure he would love that, just to be able to know that other people out there are with him on some level. So Katie Gallanti should be with us in a minute or two, and as soon as she is, we'll jump in there and start to talk to her and find out what's going on in her world. There's some other stuff happening of interest in the world today, besides it being 10-10-10, and the absolute utter travesty of the sludge traveling down the Danube now. We also have, kind of interesting, and I mentioned this on Friday's show, I believe, right after the November elections. I mean, he'll be gone even before then. Barack Obama will not be around. He'll actually be in India while the election returns come in, and he'll be there for Diwali, which is the Festival of Lights. So he won't even be in his own country after the midterms. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? You have to kind of wonder what's going on there, why he's choosing not to be around. What else is happening here in our wonderful world as we know it? Oh, this is an interesting story. This happened in my own backyard, and I read this today in, I guess I read it on Yahoo. There's this kid who lives in, I think, like Palo Alto or Menlo Park or Los Gatos, and he's I think he's half Egyptian. He's half Egyptian, and he was having some work done on his car, and the guy lifted his car up, and he went to his back tire, and he saw like something that shouldn't be there. And he looked at it and he pulled it out, and apparently it was this pretty sophisticated tracking device to track the kid. And he was going to sell it on eBay, and his buddy took some pictures of it and put it up, and next thing he knows, he's got like 8 or 9 FBI cars at his house wanting possession of the thing that they stuck under his car. They wanted it back because it's expensive. Apparently, he was a person of interest, and I guess his father was the leader in the Islamic community, but he had no idea it was, and he didn't do anything. I mean, he's just a guy. He happens to have the I guess the right skin tone and the right name and the wrong connection. So he wound up having this thing stuck to the bottom of his car. But I think it's so ironic that they wanted it back. God, it's amazing. Amazing the world that we live in. So that happened just this last week. All right, look, without further ado, let's bring her on. Here she is, all the way live from San Diego, California. It's Katie Gallanti. Hello, Katie.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm good.
How's your energy?
My energy is okay. I'm a little tired. It's been a long weekend, right?
Yeah.
But I'm here.
So, I'm not sure how much you listened to the intro, but I did tell folks that you were in the throes of service with a neighbor all weekend, and that your energy wasn't, you didn't have a lot of it, so we're just going to kind of play it by ear tonight. And
right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to come back at another time to top it up.
Okay,
you know
all right.
Like if we need to chat some more at another time, I'm willing to do that too. So if people can just be a little understanding if I'm a little slow tonight, it's good. Basically, shall I just give a tiny background of what's been going on? I've had a neighbor that is also a very good friend, right? Like we've known each other for 5 years, and sometimes you get better friends with your neighbors than with your friends because you see them all the time, right?
Right.
And she has basically almost overnight had some sort of a psychotic break, right?
Yeah.
So I have been dealing with her family, psychiatrists, do you know what I mean? And all of those kinds of things. So it's been a little intense, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's all good. I mean, she's okay now, right?
Has she exhibited any, strange behavior in the past, or is this just like a real sudden shift in her consciousness?
Well, we all have strange behaviors to some degree, right?
Yeah,
but nothing that would give an indication to this. But she had been under quite a bit of stress, right? There had been various things that she was dealing with, and they kind of peaked. And obviously it got too much for her, and so this is what she's going through at the moment. My main concern, I mean, I'm quite capable of sitting with this kind of energy, but it would be nice to have her back at some point. Do you know what I mean? It's been going on for 3 days now, and she's still in it, right? So very interesting. And in the middle of that, I thought it was kind of interesting, just to lighten it up a little bit, right? That basically she started channeling, because she comes from Hawaii, right? And this is not a person that is particularly... she's spiritual, but in a very grounded kind of way. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And she started channeling Goddess Pele of Hawaii,
mm-hmm. Right?
all of her own accord, and launched into a grand speech about Obama.
Right. Well, that's interesting.
Right, basically saying that Obama's soul was as blacker than the blacker of algae. Right?
Oh, interesting.
Right. And
wow.
kind of launched into a whole thing about this. So I thought it was, I felt she was in touch with some kind of higher truth in that moment. Right? So, there's humor even in these things, right?
Very black humor, obviously. Yeah.
Obviously. Well, I'm British, so I can laugh at these things.
I can laugh at it as well. So for you, it's kind of interesting for you because you obviously have a personal connection in the person you know, and yet you also have kind of this metaphysical perspective and a healing perspective. So I'm sure you're interacting on a number of different levels with an individual in that kind of crisis.
Yes, absolutely. And it makes it kind of complicated to then deal with the family and the doctors, right? Because, my perspective is that this is some kind of spiritual opening. I was looking at her chakras, right? Mm-hmm. And they were completely blown out, all 7 of them.
Wow.
Right? Like from the base to the crown, just one big blow. Literally, I've actually never seen anything quite like it, right?
Wow.
And I think she has some attachments as well. Do you know what I mean? Dark energy attachments.
Mm-hmm.
And the medical profession does not understand. This is something when I was studying the history of psychology, because I don't know if you know that I have a master's degree in transpersonal psychology, right? And
I was not aware of that.
Right. Yeah. And that is basically like a clinical psychology course with 3 or 4 electives of transpersonal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was studying the history of psychology, they were saying in the book, in the Middle Ages, they used to believe that psychological problems had to do with entities, right?
Mm-hmm.
As if this was a kind of like, barbarian thing to say, right?
Yeah.
But my experience is that psychological problems sometimes do have to do with entities, and basically when somebody is wide open for whatever reason, do you know what I mean? Either because of trauma, right?
Yeah. Right.
Or because of, either a drug experience, do you know what I mean? Where somebody takes a lot of drugs, or if somebody ingests a lot of alcohol, do you know what I mean, or stuff like that, you can blow your field open.
Right.
And when that happens, there can be pollution from entities from the astral plane. And some of these entities are fine, and other ones are not so fine, right, and can cause problems. So sometimes when people are hearing voices and all of that kind of stuff, right, they really, truly are hearing voices. It's a real experience. Right.
Yeah.
So what I was observing with her was basically that she was hearing a whole bunch of stuff from various kinds of places, and depending on where she was hearing them from, there was a different kind of experience, right? So there were moments in which sitting with her was fine, and felt fine, right? And then other moments where it was like, oh, who's this? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, just from a clinical perspective, it was actually quite interesting, right?
Yeah.
But obviously, very distressing from an emotional point of view, right?
So did you keep her out of the hospital?
So far, we've managed to keep her out of the hospital.
That's a good deal.
That is, we've been working very hard at keeping her out of the hospital.
Yeah.
So it's been Friday, Saturday, 3 days, right, of this kind of little tour duty.
Yeah. Right.
To keep her out of the hospital, and so far so good, right?
Yeah.
So far so good. So, and actually, I'm feeling quite positive. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a difficult event, but I'm feeling quite positive about the experience. Sometimes I felt a heightened consciousness all the way through it.
Sure. Yeah.
So obviously this is supposed to happen for some reason, right? And, obviously I'm drawn into it for some reason. I could have not been drawn into it, but I have been, right? So I feel very okay with being of service to this, right? And I'm just sorry it interfered with your show a little bit, but maybe your audience needs to hear some of this stuff. Who knows?
No, this is all fine. This is all part of it, right? I mean, this is all kind of what we're going through, you know? It's a good thing she has
isn't
you
it
as a
interesting?
too.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting that, everybody's been going on about this 10-10-10 thing?
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that, can I talk about that a tiny bit? Right.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
That generally speaking, all of these dates that we have, sometimes they coincide with like astrological stuff, and I really truly believe that they are, favorable energetic openings, right?
Mm-hmm.
That are caused by planetary alignments and so on. But other times I feel that it's almost as if we as humanity, we decide, you know what, we're going to make a big fuss about this particular date just because it sounds good, right? But it becomes significant nevertheless, right?
Right.
Because the moment in which a whole bunch of people around the planet decide that a certain date is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
That becomes important. And
Right.
as people focus their attention there and start to pull together their consciousness, right,
Mm-hmm.
then the energies really do start to build, because people start to bring the energies through meditation, through groups, through this and that and the other. And so the energy truly does build, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that can happen, I mean, this is rare, it's not a everyday kind of thing, but one of the things that can happen when we build an energy, right, is that somebody can blow a fuse, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's possible because and also the planetary energies at the moment are on fire anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
it
doesn't take much to build them up.
The Venus-Mars Scorpio is really kicking some ass right now.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's intense, isn't it?
Well, especially now that it's retrograde, there's a lot happening with relationships, looking back and going through, and I talked a little bit about that at the beginning of the show, and clearing stuff out in order to be able to move forward. And it's kind of a big time, and wherever those planets land in somebody's chart are very important, very important. So for me, it's my 12th house. How fun! So yeah. Today, by the way, is the 283rd day of the year, which comes out to 13.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about you. Let's talk about your websites first of all. Let's tell people what your websites are. Let's get that out of the way.
Okay, I have 2 million of them.
No, that's what I want.
I want one central website.
Yeah.
Okay, my healing website is cosmicessence.com, and that is mostly focused on my healing and metaphysical work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I have a blog that is called Cosmic Perspectives. Blogspot.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have my Warrior Visionaries site that is warriorvisionaries.com, right?
Yeah.
And that is more for my, or it was supposed to be originally, I had kind of split them up originally so that one could just be for the metaphysical work, one was for my planetary work, and the other one was just a blog, right?
Yeah.
However, I keep on cross-pollinating all of these things anyway, and the best way to find everything that I'm doing is actually to go to my Facebook page, right? That is facebook.com, Katie Gallanti, and there you have all of my websites, and you can see what I'm doing, right?
Have you maxed out with friends yet on Facebook?
Almost.
So you gotta have people. If you want to be Katie's friend, get over there, like before the end of the show.
I have 900 places left.
900. Okay, get there before they fill up. And then, of course, Katie, people have to become a fan of you, right? Because that's what happens.
Yes, they can become a fan of me, but I'm not really liking this fan thing that much, right? I have a fan page, I have it, but I don't like it. I never use it. So I think what I'm going to do, if when I max out, right? I'm just going to be Katie 2. There's a couple of people that are doing that, so I'll be Katie Gallanti 2.
Right. I like that. Yeah, the fan thing is weird, you know. And it's like I get people that suggest that I become a fan of theirs.
Right.
It's like I like it when somebody thinks that I should be a fan of somebody else. Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, but you want me to be your fan. I don't know. It just it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, that is just Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I think that is more like a Facebook consciousness than a people consciousness. But one of the reasons which I don't like the fan pages on there.
Yeah.
It's because the only way to communicate with your fans is through sending updates, and nobody reads them, right? So what's the point? Do you know what I mean?
It's true.
So what I have done is that I've created 2 groups instead, right?
Yeah.
And the groups are exactly reflecting what I'm doing with the website. So there's one for my metaphysical work, and there's one for my planetary work, right?
Right.
So the metaphysical one is Soul Metaphysics, and the planetary one is Warrior Visionaries, Rain.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no limit on the groups, so you can have as many people as you like in those.
Well, we've had some interesting here, let me say this. I think we've had some interesting cross-pollination with people coming from my world to your world.
Yeah, and vice versa.
I don't get a lot of people coming from your world, though.
Right.
It's okay, though. I'm all right with that.
Right.
My ego's not threatened by that.
Right.
Yeah. And,
I know that my friend Maggie went to you.
Yeah, Maggie likes what I do, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, she does. Yeah. She's one of mine, so you have one. Right.
Yeah, as long as it's a good one. I'll take one good one than 10 week versus 10 week ones.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, good plan.
Yeah. So, you're kind of interesting in that, and I've seen this dynamic with you before on Facebook, and you and I have talked about it offline, in that you are, in kind of a quote-unquote traditional term, and it's a very loaded term, a light worker, right?
Yes.
And you also have this other part of you, which is really how I connected to through you, which is being a dark worker, Yes. And so, and you're having this interesting kind of conflict of identity and ideology with people, because there are the light workers who accuse you of being too dark and negative.
Yeah.
And there are people who are really just saying, hey, let's fuck the man and let's start naming names and kicking ass. And oh, she's too light, by the way. She's too new agey. So you're in this really weird sort of space. No, I get it. No, I understand it. I know where you are. You define that for me. But how do you deal with it in terms of your own internal process, and how do you balance all that stuff, Katie?
Right. Okay. First of all, can I explain why I'm in the middle?
Yeah.
Like it's a true conscious choice, right, for me to be in the middle, right? I could be all on one side or all on the other side, but I don't want to be. I want to be in the middle. I feel that my role is to be a bridge, right? It's not a comfortable role, right? But the reason for which I feel that I need to be a bridge is because my ultimate intent is a spiritual one, right? My ultimate intent is one of raising consciousness, I am a planetary worker in the sense that I literally work with the energy of the planets. There's a lot of people that say that they're planetary, this and that and the other, but they're not. I literally work with the aura of the planet. I work with the collective consciousness streams, right, energetically, and shift them and move them around. And one of the things that I do, that I have always done since I was a child, right, is that I see the dark energy. It's not a choice. I see it. Okay? And if there's a whiff of demonic somewhere, I seem to find it. Right, okay. And so for me, the ones that are just doing the conspiracy angle, they are very often missing the spiritual underpinning of everything that we're going through, that is really a light-dark battle.
Yeah.
Like what we are going through, ultimately, if you go to the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the well, right?
Yeah.
There is a war going on between the light polarity and the dark polarity, and the war has to do with the consciousness of this planet and where we're trying to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so there's a light faction that is trying to raise the consciousness of the planet and to take it to a place that is, in divine alignment, let's say, right? But even if you don't want to do the whole divine thing, you can say a place that is based on cooperation, love, and harmony and positive power rather than negative power and manipulation, right?
Yeah.
Of which our planet at the moment is ruled by negative power and manipulation, right? And fear. And if you go and do some digging, even in the conspiracy thing, you get to the negative ETs, you get to the dark rituals, right?
Yep.
And if you keep on digging, then you get to the dark entities, and ultimately the dark entities are ruling the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Because they want to keep this particular plane in a particular frequency. Now, that you get if you go to the bottom of the well in the conspiracy. That is where you get to. Eventually, that's where you go. That's what you see.
Right.
Now, on the light side, we have a lot of people that are doing the work of the light, that is, of raising the consciousness, right, by holding a certain frequency of light. And I'm talking about the true light workers. I'm not talking about the people that are just trying to get refuge into some pink, fluffy cloud.
Yeah.
Those are in denial, and that is an escapism, as far as I'm concerned. That's not true consciousness work, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
people that just want to be happy and say love and light every 2 seconds. I mean, that's not the real deal. But within the light worker community, there is a lot of real deal also, and there's a lot of people that are raising consciousness through energy work, through holding frequencies of love, through holding compassion, through doing all of those things. Now, very often these people are not interested in the conspiracy angle because that's not their role, that's not what they're doing. However, there is a need for a small group of people, right? It doesn't have to be a large percentage, it can just be 5%. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a big chunk. The light people can do the light thing, and the conspiracy people can do the conspiracy thing, right?
Right.
But there is a need for a small group of people to do the bridge, because who is going to go after the dark astrals, right?
Yeah.
Well, I do, okay? And there's other people that do. So my job is to educate people to the dark, about the dark, without taking them out of the spiritual high consciousness frequency, so that it can still be an exercise in high consciousness, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But addressing the fact that there is a shadow, right, and there is a shadow world, and it needs to be dealt with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, my desire is to teach people how to do that, okay? And I am very aware that my audience is not huge for that, right?
Yeah.
I know that I'm only talking to a very small cross-section, but I know that I have to do so, and that is my role.
Right.
And so, to be able to nail the parts of the collective larger picture that need intervention, I need to be informed of every possible dark thing that exists. Right?
Yeah.
And that is not because I want to indulge in fear, and it's not because I want to indulge in anything negative, but if I am a doctor that removes tumors, I need to see where the tumor is, right?
Yeah.
And so my attention is on the tumor, not because I want to, do an altar to the tumor, and tumors are lovely. It's because I want to remove it, and to remove it, I need to see it, and I need to locate it, and I need to know everything about it. So
right.
my interest in the quote-unquote dark comes from there. And, I have been writing for various magazines, metaphysical, this and that, for many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because before the online thing, I was doing the imprint thing. So I've been writing for about 10 years, and I've been awake for about 15, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am actually a bit tired. I think we need to shift this planet because I need to retire soon. Right. But whatever. But I never used to talk about these things until and openly until April 2009, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But because of that, people think that this is a new thing. I have been aware of these things since I was 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I have been conscious of the dark side and working with it and learning about it and reading about it since 1995, right?
Yeah.
But until 2009, I was not called to talk about it openly.
Mm-hmm.
But in April 2009, I was told that I had to. And by I was told, I mean my councils that I work with on the High Plains range. And
Mm-hmm.
here is where I have the bridge problem. The conspiracy people don't want me to talk about my councils, right?
Yeah, right.
Because they think that's foo-foo. But I do have councils. They're 12th dimensional beings of light. I work with them, and they talk to me. And the light workers don't want me to talk about the demons.
Yeah, it just brings them down.
I mean?
It just brings them down.
Just brings them down, or they say they don't exist, or they're just a projection, and this and that.
Or you'll draw them to them if you
Or draw them to me, yeah, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's not true. It's but I have accepted this. At the beginning, I used to even get kind of hurt when people would challenge me on these things, right? I was like, oh no, nobody gets me, right?
Yeah, right.
And now I don't care. I've literally come to the point where I am so certain about what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
I'm really certain about what I'm doing, and I know that my role is important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying this out of ego, by the way. Like, not important as in, oh, me, Katie Gallanti, but it's like I'm of service to this role, and it's okay with me.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's healthy.
Right.
That's a healthy relationship to it.
Mhm. Yeah. It took about a year.
Yeah.
And by the way, people have stopped attacking me since I've. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens. You own something, really own it, and then all of a sudden the outer sort of manifestations of dissent or conflict lighten up.
Yeah. Well, there's no hook for it, is there?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think before, if it happened, I would allow people to hook. I would bite. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, whatever. It's I just accepted that there's a wide variety of opinions out there.
Yeah.
About different things, and I have mine. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about where things are right now. I mean, we're living in a really weird time. I mean, really weird. You've got people that are literally starting to drop like flies in the Gulf of Mexico.
Right.
And 40 million gallons of some of the most toxic chemicals known to man were pumped directly into this great body of water, which is a huge bed of life. In spite of the fact that there are oil rigs all over the place. I mean, one of the things about the Gulf is that, yes, there's shrimp, there's crab, there's all the wonderful species of fish, and it is a ghetto of oil rigs at the same time.
Yes. What is it, 7,000 oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico?
I think so.
I mean, yeah, like an extraordinary number. So
to think that the Gulf is simply sort of this pristine swath of nature is a little illusionary, but to that extent, to the extent that they went so far as to really pump up the volume of toxicity there is off the charts. And so now we've got people that are showing up with, people are showing up with all kinds of high levels of toxicity and methane and benzene and hexane and all this stuff in their blood down there. So we've got that going on. Then the economy is continuing to just to fall off the continental shelf here in the country with really not a lot being done about it. And then we've got all these strange little, fires that keep popping up to distract us from, what's going on. We've got a president that really seems completely disinterested in fixing anything. And in fact, I said at the beginning of the show that after the midterm elections, he won't even be in the country. He'll be in India for the Festival of Light. So we have a president who seems disinterested, and in fact, not even disinterested. When Velma Hart was part of that town hall meeting and said that she's tired of supporting him, he had the big grin and he laughed. He thought it was just a big yuck, and it was so really inappropriate. And so we've got all this weirdness going on. John McCain wants to introduce this new bill into the Senate around the Belligerent Citizens Act, and now you can be detained for being a belligerent. Things are just getting really, really weird, really weird.
Yeah.
And so here's my take, and then I'll throw it back to you, and you can riff on it, okay?
Okay.
For the past year, when I first got on Facebook, I was on a crusade, to shake the light workers, not you, but light workers. I wanted to shake them up, and I went into a lot of posts because a lot of my friends live in Northern California, West Marin, which is the Oz of light workers, and so I took on a lot of their posts, and I would challenge them constantly, and then after a while, I could see some of them were starting to shift a little bit. And I've got a buddy named Lawrence who was doing the same thing. And so what I was experiencing, having experienced, are people are waking up to this darker reality, right?
Yeah,
it is really becoming quite evident to folks that things just aren't right. So for me, right, the veil between what's going on behind the scenes and what people are actually looking at, that veil is getting thinner and thinner.
Yes, it is.
And if that veil is getting thinner and thinner, then there are other veils that are getting thinner and thinner as well. So I think that as we begin to look at these things and they become very evident for anybody that's got a couple of eyes to see at this point, that there's a possibility for other pieces and other forms of energy and revelation to come into play at the same time. And I think for me, I'm not taking on those people anymore. I've dropped that. I dropped that about 6 months ago. I'm in a different place now, and I'm more interested in trying to understand this other energy behind this veil so that we can somehow co-create and work with it in a way that gives us a sense of purpose and what I call transformational velocity. What is your take?
No, I agree. Well, first of all, the reasons let's talk about the dark first, and then we'll go to the light. Okay. Like the reason for which the veil on the dark stuff is thinning, right, is because the dark faction, let's call it that, right, to get what they need to get done now, it's almost like they need our participation, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, for example, all of the videos, if we talk about the music industry for a second, and I know you and I have both talked about this before, right?
Yeah.
The videos that are coming out in the past year from a lot of the top artists that are kind of part of the commercial side of the industry, right?
Yeah.
Are becoming darker, and almost blatant satanic rituals on film, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's because they need our energetic participation to accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish. That is basically getting this particular realm, the Earth plane, to become a global super-fascist collective Borg-like thing, right?
Right.
That they can use for their own, on one level, where there's total control, and the power is in the hands of just very few that control everything, right?
Yeah.
And on another hand, it becomes like an energetic feast for the dark astral, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So energetically, it becomes like a feeding ground. And the reason for which everything is quite timely, I am still on the fence about the whole 2012 thing, right?
Yeah.
Some people are really into that. I am still on the fence about it. I always see a bell curve instead of a date, right?
Yeah.
But I do truly believe that there is some sort of shift in consciousness going on, and that it does have some kind of timing attached to it, and that it is somehow linked to solar and galactic cycles, right?
Yeah.
And so there is a kind of rush going on from the dark beings, right? Beings and people, because they're both beings and people, to amp this up so that they can get things done, because they're also riding this consciousness wave, right?
Yeah.
Like they're riding it, and they're trying to use it for their own purposes. So to do that, they're in a hurry, do you know what I mean? And all of these events that we are seeing, all of them, the Gulf, the economy, everything, is basically part of their plan of creating this acceleration towards their particular goals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And the Gulf, in particular, is kind of interesting because they have created an event that is going to, let's say in theory, if it goes to, this is the plan, their plan, it's not necessarily what needs to happen, right? But basically the idea is to create an event that has a dark energetic component, because whenever there's something as dramatic as, hundreds of thousands of dead people and animals and fish and,
Right.
that is a version of sacrifice, right?
Absolutely.
It's a ritual.
Yep.
It's a ritual. And during that ritual, energy gets generated, and especially if everybody's energy is focused on it in a certain way, that's even more energy that is generated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine actually pointed out, I think it was Cariel, you remember Cariel that did the interview with me?
Yeah.
A while back, from Heartlink Radio, and she and I were talking at some point, and she said, isn't it interesting that the chemical, the dispersant that they're using is called core exit, right?
Right, core exit.
That is
yeah.
core exit. So
Yeah.
it's like it's the beginning of the exit of what they have planned for the depopulation agenda, right?
Right.
And obviously, that thing, at the moment, it's just focused on the Gulf, and we're just hearing about the people that are dying there and so on. But the potential for that to go bigger exists, because that stuff is volatile. Do you know what I mean? It evaporates, it goes into the air, and then who knows where it goes and what happens with it, right?
Yeah.
And so, and they have put it, the placement of the whole thing is very strategic, isn't it? Because it's in the Gulf of Mexico. That is the generator for the, the Gulf current that goes all the way to Northern Europe.
That's right. Yeah.
It goes all the way up the coast, on the east coast. Then it goes all the way to Europe and all into Scandinavia.
Yeah.
And then it goes back down again, and I think it comes back up through South America. Is that correct?
I heard that it actually goes down around the tip of South Africa.
Right. Okay. Well, it goes down,
and then it comes back around to South America.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of ground to cover for a toxic current, right?
Huge. And that's just from the water. That's not, we're not even talking about the air.
That's just from the water without thinking about the air.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you look at my Warrior Visionaries wall on in my group. I post stuff on there quite often. And at a certain point, I have various people that send me stuff. You know, when you start doing this work, I'm sure that you're the same. Do you have people that send you stuff all the time?
I do.
Right?
Yes,
I have tons, right, of information that comes to me from various places, right? In fact, I hardly even have to do any research anymore. I just have to read what people send me. And basically, at some point, I got a whole batch of things, videos, right, that were like snippets of news from local TV stations, right, that were showing that basically there was one from New Jersey, one from some other Virginia, one from whatever, all the way down the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
All the way down. And I had like 6 or 7 of them, and they all were talking about thousands and thousands of fish that were dead and were had arrived onto the shore.
Yeah.
Right? And so basically, whatever this toxic stream is doing, it's already taken out a ton of fish.
Yeah.
And you're aware of James Fox, right?
Yeah.
You know James Fox, the dude that's going down and taking all the videos and stuff?
I do.
Yeah. Anyway, at some point he started following one of these trucks that were taking the tar balls from the beach.
Yeah.
He was like, where are they taking these tar balls and this toxic material? So he started following the truck. And he followed the truck all the way to a kind of like a toxic waste, a dump thing, garbage dump, whatever, in the middle of the countryside. And he could smell dead fish. So they're already taking out all of they're flying over and taking out the evidence of the damage, right? And and here the question is, these are my 2 questions about the Gulf in particular at the moment, right? That situation is obviously still ticking.
Yeah.
The oil is still coming out from the ocean floor.
That's right.
It is, because it was cracked before they capped a well, so who cares about capping the well? The ocean floor is cracked, and we already knew that, so the oil is still coming out. They're still spraying the Corexit, right?
That's right.
We know that they can move around the hurricanes, right?
Yeah.
And so
there has not been any hurricanes really this season either.
Exactly. So what is the game here? Like, what are they doing? Because I would have expected that they would have whipped up the hurricanes and created a holy mess, right? If the purpose is to take out those people.
It seems too obvious, though.
Right. So what are they doing?
Well, I think what they're doing is they're cooking. They're still cooking their batch. That's what I think.
Right. Yeah. So it's going to come at a later time.
So this really triggered something for me. I have a dear friend over in England, in Kent, and she has a son who is very, very clairvoyant and an extremely powerful dreamer. And he had a dream where his grandparents got touched by people with sores, and he called the people with the sores zombies. And I've been thinking a lot after he said that, thinking a lot about zombie culture and how zombie culture has really become a very big part of our media. And there's a seasonal film about zombies. There's always a seasonal film about The Walking Dead.
Right.
And I think this is what I think. I think that this is the darkest vision that might emerge out of that, is that what we might be seeing is a manifest version through the modification of the Gulf and the various toxic chemicals, and not to mention viruses, which might be there as well. A version of zombification. I know it sounds really far out, but as you know, if you look at it, people will theoretically it'll be hard for them to think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It'll be hard for them to walk, to have a lot of motor skills because their neuromotor skills will be broken down, and they'll have abscesses and sores all over their bodies, just like zombies in movies. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I can kind of see this getting played out.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, right? And that kind of ties in with what I have been seeing of, for example, in these videos by Lady Gaga that we're seeing at the moment.
Right.
But she's dressed up in the raw flesh, right? And then there's other ones where she has all the blood all over her and all the rest of it. There is a direction towards some kind of horror, like the energy of horror, right? And all this kind of blood and gore and everything, and if you think about it, that is something that puts people into almost like a trauma state.
Right.
And then from that state, they become. Again, we have to go to the spiritual war aspect of this, because when people, it's like an invocation of energies, and what energies are they invoking? Horror, death, fear, and so your zombie idea is a similar thing. Do you know what I mean? It's a corruption. It's a corruption of life, right?
Yep.
There is the then everybody's easy to control bit, but then there's also then they become good sources of dark energy, right? That help creating almost like the word that comes to me is like Lord of the Flies, kind of like, you know what I mean?
Lord of the
like
Flies means Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
Lord of the Fly Rings.
But basically, yes, they're cooking a bad soup. Okay, they're cooking a bad soup, and but my sense about this, just to do my bridge roll here, right, is that and so going towards the light aspect of this is that yes, there are all of these things going on, and these are the things that these people are doing. And they are basically transforming the whole global scene into one big dark ritual, because they want to invoke certain energies and ground certain energies, and basically keep this domain for themselves and even upgrade it to a fourth dimensional dark, right? Okay,
Yeah.
because the dark has been here since the end of Atlantis. So it's not that they're conquering anything new here, right?
Right, yeah.
But they are dark, they're almost going for graduation on the dark side here.
Yeah.
And in fact, if you read the Law of One material from the Ra channelings, have you ever come across that material?
I have, yeah.
Did you read it?
No, not much, but I've come across it, yeah.
Okay. Well, I read all of that, all 5 volumes in 2001, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back to back. And this was before it became popular with, what's his name? David Wilcock, right? Literally, It came to me. I had a client at the time that was into it, and she said, you should read it. So I did, and I read the whole thing back to back. And I believe that there's actually some real hardcore truth in every now and then you read something where it's like, yeah, okay, I get this, right? And it was talking in that book about a process that is called the harvest, right?
Yeah.
It is basically like a cyclical thing where every so often there is the opportunity for almost like a change of phase. In physics we have the change of phase. Something goes from a liquid to from a gas to a liquid to a solid, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with the consciousness. There's every now and then the conditions are right for a change of phase in the consciousness. And basically what happens is that you have the opportunity to make a leap in density. That is what they were calling it, right?
Uh-huh.
So we are moving at the moment from one density to another. However, they are the ones that are in service to self, and there's the ones that are in service to others. The ones that are in service to others are trying to do a positive shift in density. So they're trying to go to fourth or fifth dimensional positive, right? But the dark is doing the same on the other side. They're trying to do fourth, fifth dimensional dark. And so that is where we're at right now. And that is why they are becoming so dark and pulling in the energy in that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, however, we need to balance it out because we see what they are doing, and you know, if all we think that we can do is report on what they're doing, right? Then that is useful in terms of exposing things. It's good because we need the truth, but it's not enough.
Right, and
okay?
it leads to despair. And when people are in despair, they become
and that contributes to that energy.
Yeah.
So my personal contribution is that, and that is why I always feel that I need to be in the middle, right, between the light workers and the conspiracy thing, is because we as spiritual beings aligned with the light, we also have the power to intervene and shift energy and create positive ritual, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what does that mean? For example, I'm an ex-physicist, so I think in terms of energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The collective consciousness is an energy. It is an energy just like, and in fact, let me explain a little the energetics of the planet, if that's okay. How the planet works at the energy level. We have a planet that is the Earth, and the Earth has a consciousness of her own, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, it's an energy. She has an aura just like a bug has an aura, I have an aura, so do you. And so does the planet, okay? That is the energy of the planet itself. Then on the planet, there is the guardian race of this planet is humanity. Mm-hmm. It could be the insects, but it's not. We are the consciousness holders for this planet. Some people say that the whales and the dolphins are doing that too in the water. I don't know about that, but I do know that we are the resident consciousness for this planet, okay?
Yeah.
Humanity is made of, at the moment, 7 billion humans, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Each one of these humans has a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, an astral, various levels of spiritual bodies, and so on, all the way to the cosmic body and the God body when you go all the way up to Creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, when people talk about DNA activations, right, the reason for which there is such a thing as a DNA activation is because the DNA has physical and non-physical sheaths that correspond to these bodies. So actually, it's not really a DNA activation, it's a body activation. So when people are talking about that kind of thing, basically what they're doing is that they are lighting up some of their higher spiritual bodies, right? Mm-hmm. That is fine, they can do that. And when they do that, they become more aware and can bring more light in, et cetera, if that's what they're really going through, because sometimes it's just BS, right?
Right.
So you have to have a lot of discernment when you go into these kind of things. So when you look at humanity as a whole, right, the whole of humanity has a collective energy that is basically the sum total of all of the human beings on the planet Earth, right?
Yep.
And humanity itself has a consciousness that has various of those levels. It has the emotional level. It has the mental level. There is a mental body of humanity. There is an emotional body of humanity, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So what is the purpose of all of the various rituals and things and so on that the dark side is doing? What they're doing is that they are planting thought forms, emotions, etc., into the collective body of humanity. And because we as collective, we are connected, then we pick it up and we start vibrating that, and then that is the frequency that we're generating, okay?
Yeah.
That is one of the reasons, by the way, for which the powers that be created television, okay?
Yeah.
Because television is one of the easiest way to get people into a hypnotic state, download information, and make them beam crap into the collective field, okay?
Right, yeah.
As well as a programming tool. It's a programming tool and it's a download tool, both of them, okay?
Right.
So now we can reverse engineer this, though, right? Once you understand that this is what is going on, and once you understand that the collective body of humanity is an energetic thing that vibrates at a certain frequency that at the moment is being manipulated to vibrate low, and to vibrate fear and horror and violence and yuck and gunk and all of those things that feed the dark astral, right?
Yeah.
You can then also do the opposite, and that is why the genuine light worker is useful, because they are doing the opposite. They're downloading the light, do you know what I mean? And so on.
Yeah.
However, you can take it one step further and become an interventionalist, right? That you can intervene. And how do you intervene? You intervene by literally clearing the collective energy the same way that you would clear an energy field in a healing session. You can work on the energy of the collective itself directly and move energy out of there that shouldn't be there. So powers that be download their nasty frequencies. Planetary workers that know how to do this remove those energies and chuck them out of the Earth plane. And so that then becomes neutralized, right? And so what I am trying to teach people to do is to, first of all, learn and understand the power of the word, right? One of the things that we are not taught is that we can command energy with our word. And so, for example, if I'm sitting in my living room and I say that I ask in alignment with divine will, etc., etc., you know, you always have to have spirit behind you, because otherwise you by yourself, you're not going to go very far, right?
Right.
So if you invoke the spiritual energy and you're aligned with the spiritual energy, you can then ask for intervention and removal of certain things. So let's say, for example, that you see what is going on in the Gulf of Mexico and you understand what that is all about. And you understand that this is a dark energy maneuver of some kind. Well, then you can ask for those energies to be neutralized and removed, right? And if everybody were doing this, right, dark energy would have no chance. Not at all, not in even a smidget of a chance. Because there's very, very few that are focused on dark intent. They're very organized, they're very focused, but they're very, very few. And we are millions. And if we all together just decided to start putting out some really serious interventional intent, right?
Right, yeah.
We could clean this up in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's because we have been disabled and we have been conditioned to not believe in the spiritual, right?
Yeah.
Even if there is a lot of stuff out there about you know, magic and all of those kind of things, it's done in a way that is like, it's either dark or it's a game.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we are not educated about the nature of energy. We're not educated about the nature of our own power. We have been educated to even feel slightly embarrassed talking about things like God or spirituality, right? Okay, because it feels like, oh, well, that is so, like, you know, last century, right? But ultimately, that is where the power source comes from, and if we align with that, we can really start shifting some things. Okay?
Right, yeah.
And personally, I literally see it in the same way as If you go to a healer, the healer works on your chakras, clears the stuff out, clears your energy field, blah, blah, blah. It's exactly the same when you're working with the planet. It's just a bigger energy. Do you know what I mean? But it's the same thing. And, if you're clairvoyant, you can work on it until the cows come home. The most important thing to remember when you're working with collective energy is that you always have to put some clauses in it, like, as long as this is for the highest good, and as long as it is in alignment with divine will, as long as it is, a good thing for this to occur, because otherwise you're exerting your own personal will, and that is not good.
Right.
Like you have to allow for whatever the bigger picture is to unfold, rather than trying to modify it with your own limited vision, right?
Yeah.
Is this making any sense, what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm a bit tired, so I'm trying
sure.
to...
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure that there are a lot of people out there that are familiar with it, and if they're not familiar with it, they're at least getting a sense of it from you in this moment. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I am in total agreement with you. The thing that strikes me is that we get these images and these examples of dark energy or negative energy or and this is what we see because this is what is being shown to us through the media. But
that's right.
On the other hand, there's a lot of other stuff that's going on that we don't see. It is not promulgated. It is not shown. It is not broadcast. And there is really remarkable things that happen in people's lives that are what I call minor miracles or anonymous magic that we clearly are not privy to. Unless it happens in our lives or we happen to witness it in somebody else's lives, and that to me that's the powerful stuff because that's a grassroots layer of epiphany and revelation and transformation. And I think that for you, I do see you as being somebody that works directly with the planet at that level. And I know that there are other versions of you that are doing it and people that do it. And this is a very powerful group of people that source this. And I would also add that for people that may not feel comfortable with that role or it doesn't resonate with them, that the best thing that they can do is try to live as consciously as possible and be of service in as many moments as possible during the day as you can.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I think that really adds a resonant field for all this other stuff to hold. We have a resonant field that holds something for us by conscious acts of service and participation and love. And so it's like the macro and the micro, and I think if we put the two of them together, this is how we can hold the vision of a loving world in place.
Yes, no, absolutely. And also, if I can add, to just really try not to get overwhelmed, okay? Because there's so much dark stuff that's coming up for us to take a look at the moment, right? And that's fine, right? We need to know all of these things, so it's good. I mean, we need to know. But to always, the moment in which you start feeling, oh, that's it, it's all hopeless, we can't do anything about it, like, the big black giant is just about to squash us all in the head, and we're these little tiny ants, right? Yeah. And we have no power. To not think that way, because we have infinite power. We really do. And it sounds corny, and it may sound new age and whatever, I don't care. We have infinite power. The moment in which we plug into our own divinity, forget God and the divine out there, doesn't matter. The moment in which you plug into the whole of who you are as a being, right? All of you. Yeah. All of your multidimensionality, every single aspect of who you are. You're huge, you are brilliant, you are powerful. Even if you die, you're going to be reincarnated again somewhere else. It's no big deal. Do you know what I mean? Right. It's fine. Do you know what I mean? And yes, okay, so there may be a smidget of a possibility of a bad ending to a particular kind of movie, right?
Yeah.
Earth Plane 2012 is the movie, right?
Right.
Okay. And so let's say that this particular movie has one of those like and everything freezes over kind of endings.
Right.
You're still going to get in another movie at some point. And I think I'm kind of privileged from that point of view because I have full recollection of my past lives, right?
Uh-huh.
At least the ones that I've had on the Earth.
Yeah.
And I know that I've been killed many times, and, you know, I went through the end of Atlantis, I remember it. Then I incarnated in Egypt, and I was walled alive by the dark priesthood. And then I'm still here, you know?
Right.
We are indestructible.
They can't get rid of you, Katie. You keep coming back.
They can't get rid of me.
They call you Velcro.
You know, I'm the thing that keeps on coming back.
You're the Velcro warrior.
Yeah, but we all are, right? Like, I mean, I am, but we all are. Like, we are indestructible.
And, you know, I also want to throw out that it's okay to be imperfect, too. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we get so hung up on trying to be as spiritual as we can and eat the right food and look. I've had two experiences in the last 2 weeks where, you know, I've blown my fucking lid. I've lost, you know, I blew a cork, and and the person that I blew the cork with, we came back and we talked, and, you know, and we worked through it, you know. And as long as I think that there's a commitment to work through these places internally and with another person, then these imperfect spots that we find ourselves in, they're not as debilitating and paralytic, because we all make mistakes. We all have our emotional blind spots. We're all being intensely taxed with stress from the material world and the world of the fractional reserve currency and that paradigm, and I mean, it's all really just, you know, pressing on us, and we can't all be saints all the time. And I think that if people can just realize that, cut other people some slack every now and then, cut themselves some slack, but yet continue to work on these things and try to get through them. I think that it helps with the overwhelm, and it allows us to be human, which isn't a bad thing at times, you know.
No, it isn't. And in fact, can I add something on that about that whole philosophy that is out there about the fact that if shit is happening in your life, it's your fault, and you're not doing a good job, and you're not putting out the right energy, and all of that kind of stuff, right? That is what I call New Age guilt. Yeah. Okay. I think that is a piece of programming that comes directly from the dark side. Yeah. It's programming. And I'm going to name names on this one. I think The Secret is a dark thing, and I also think Abraham Hicks is. Right.
Yeah, you and I have talked about Abraham Hicks a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not aligned with that kind of stuff. I'm not. Because basically, yes, it's true, we do create our own reality, all of that. You know, we do create our own reality. But we create it at many levels, and one of the main levels at which we create our own reality is from the soul level. Yeah. And the soul plans lessons and all sorts of things into our lives, and some of them are challenging and some of them are difficult. And they are, I'm sorry to say, still one of the ways in which we achieve a lot of learning is through being confronted with some kind of catalyst, right? Yeah, yeah. So you have an experience like you hurt your leg, and then through that you accept some part of your vulnerability, and you connect, do you know what I mean, with some part of you that allows you to open, and you make a leap. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Now, what that philosophy of, well, if you broke your leg, it means that you're putting out some kind of bad vibe, do you know what I mean? Yeah. That made your leg get broken, therefore you are still not right, spiritual enough, all of that kind of stuff. What that does to people is that it makes people ashamed of talking about what's going on in their lives to other people, and it isolates them, right, into their own pain. It makes it very hard for them to heal, right, because we heal through connection with other people. And it's a very negative thing as far as I'm concerned. And the other thing that it creates is a bunch of very judgmental people on the other side that are very ready to point the finger at anything that's going on in other people's lives that they think is out of balance, right? Yeah. They're like, oh, well, it's their fault, you know. And I actually, you know how in the Bohemian Grove every year they do the cremation of care ceremony?
Yeah.
You're aware of that?
Yep.
Where basically they sacrifice care and compassion on the altar of the big owl, right?
Yeah.
And that is because if you are caring and compassionate towards another person and you resonate with their pain and you feel it, your heart opens and you want to help them and you go into love, right?
Yeah.
I have just spent 3 days with my neighbor here, and by the end of today, I had such a strong love connection with her. I had tears coming into my eyes, right? That comes from sitting with the pain.
Yeah.
If you sit with the pain, that happens, right? Now, I feel that some of these teachings, and this is a really strong thought of mine, I've had it for some time, I'm pipped on it. I think that those teachings are the collective cremation of care. I think they are a way to condition us to think that it's spiritual to just think about yourself.
Yeah.
Just create happiness and abundance in your own bubble.
Right.
Right. Focus on. Also, all of this is always about how much money you seem to be drawing into your bank account. And I can tell you now, bank account and spirituality have absolutely nothing to do with one another.
Right.
They sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. It's not.
Yeah.
There's no causal relationship here between money and spirit. There isn't. Some people have money to do their mission. Great, good for them. And some people don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But basically, there's a whole bunch of thought forms that is being programmed through that makes people not very compassionate, and it makes people, on the one side of the state, kind of ashamed of sharing what's going on with them because they don't want to be seen as the ones that are so unevolved that they still have issues, right?
Yeah.
And on the other hand, there's a lot of people that are like, well, if you have issues, therefore you are still, stuck in this. And I keep on getting, whenever I look at this, I keep on getting the image of the cremation of care, and I get, isn't it interesting how they've kind of downloaded this spirituality, this spiritual system,
right,
that puts people in a position where they do not, the imperfection is not allowed, the compassion is not allowed.
Right.
You're just supposed to be this thing that beams out positivity 99% of the time. Well, it's not like that. Even as astrologers, we know that pain is cyclical.
That's right.
You try smiling during a Pluto transit.
Yeah, exactly. It's true.
I'm going to want to see who is the enlightened one that smiles all the way through a Pluto transit.
Yeah.
Right.
No. I think you're absolutely right. And first of all, I did a weekend one time with Abraham Hicks, and my opinion, and I've been around enough channelers going back into the 80s, and some very, very profound channelers, and some not so profound channelers. So I've got a pretty good filter, and it was my experience that Esther was faking it. That was my experience. Right. And because there's a level of resonance and real, true multidimensionality when somebody who is really channeling brings to the fore. You can feel it. I mean, it is happening on so many levels, and that was not my experience with Esther at all. And I felt it was a little strange, to be honest with you. But getting back to this whole concept of the cremation of care as being exported into The Secret and the Abraham Hicks work, I think it's a brilliant analogy, and I totally agree with it. And part of it, it's interesting. It's like you kind of get it from both ends, right? You get it from the traditional fundamentalist side, right? Like if you're not aligned with Jesus, their version of Jesus, not like the loving gospel version of Jesus, but if you're not aligned, then your life is wrong. And if something bad is happening to you, it's either because you're either going through a test, which Jesus will get you through, or more than likely you're a heathen, and you deserve. And this is why what has happened in Palestine and Gaza has been excused by the Christian church, because they believe that these people are godless heathens, and that they have their skin tone is different than theirs. So therefore, anything goes. Let them have it. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, you've got the people that are into The Secret and Abraham Hicks. Well, those people, they deserve it, because obviously they fucked up in some past life, or they're not living their right livelihood, so they're cannon fodder. So it comes from both sides.
Yes.
And what's happening is that our humanity is being squeezed out of us by these systems, and they're the same system. They're just wearing different robes.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that the pollution of the spirituality has been happening on this planet right from the get-go. Don't you? I mean, if you go all the way back even to Atlantis, in some ways the pollution of the spirituality has been something that has been ongoing, because I think that people, I'm just thinking out loud here, do you know what I mean? New thoughts. Because people really, truly have a natural tendency to gravitate towards spiritual understanding, right?
Yeah.
And it is through that understanding very often, like even somebody that is an atheist has a spiritual understanding. They have the spiritual understanding that there's no God. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. We all have some kind of framework, some kind of spiritual framework through which we operate. And through that framework, we build our underpinning belief system of how life works, but also of our role within it, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like a value system of some kind, gets born by that, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can manipulate that stuff, if you can manipulate it, either by making people feel, I mean, I was raised a Catholic, right? And in the Catholic thing, it's you're bad, and you're a sinner, you have sinned a lot of times. You're sinned even before you were born.
Right, yeah.
You were born with the original sin. This sin is like, and I remember at 10 years old running out of, this is for real. I mean, when I was 10, I remember sitting in church listening to the priest going on about all of this stuff, and I was sitting there and I was thinking, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm never going to be sin-free. I'm never going to be perfect. And at a certain point, I just bolted out of the church, right? And I remember because the nun ran after me, and she was like, "Where are you going?" So I was running down the aisle, and so was the nun trying to catch me.
Was her habit like flopping in the air? She was running after you?
With a fluffy habit and everything, and I bolted out of the door. And she was like, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I can't be perfect, so I cannot stay in here."
What kind of shoes do nuns wear? You never get to see what kind of shoes they wear because of their frocks or whatever. Do they wear tennies, or what's a nun shoe?
Well,
do you know?
Usually they wear kind of like black shoes with the laces, right?
Yeah.
That's what I remember. But I had a long thing with the nuns because my mum sent me to the nuns to convent school when I was 11 to 13 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I was not happy with the nuns at all, and I organized a school strike. I got everybody to give in their test papers blank, and then as part of this grand adolescent, rebellion thing that I was doing at the time, I decided that I wanted to see what was underneath the nun's veil, and I actually took one of the veils off of the nun. That was not a very nice thing for me to do, but I needed to know what was underneath it.
So I guess that underneath the veil. Well, so
I had to.
What happened? What'd you see?
She had braided hair, and that was it.
Braided
and
hair.
then a year later, I matured, and I apologized for that.
There you go. Yeah.
When I was 13, I apologized.
Well done. Well done. Yeah. They couldn't even get me into a church. I'm serious. I was 4 years old, and they opened the door of the church. I looked in, and I screamed. And I was clawing at the door to not be let in.
Mm-hmm.
And I had issues from an early age. We used to drive past this very powerful looking Russian Orthodox church. You know, the white alabaster walls, blue minarets. You know, and every day we would drive. It wouldn't be every day. Maybe 3 days out of the week we would drive past that to go home. Me and my parents. Mm-hmm. And I would have a panic attack about a half a mile away from that thing. Mm-hmm. And I would literally climb underneath the seat of the car, terrified, mm-hmm. and asking if we were past it yet.
Right.
And I was like maybe 7 or 8 years old, and you know, I think I had a few issues in some other lifetime. You know.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, right? Because you know that children, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't really tap into that, but children have very, very vivid past life recall. And like when there's a book out there. I think.
I have it. Yeah, I have that book. Yeah.
You have that book, right? It's really good, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
It's called Children's Past Lives, and if you talk, when I was a teacher, because I used to teach in schools, I would ask my 11-year-olds, because they were the youngest ones that I had.
Yeah.
I was a high school teacher. And I would ask my 11-year-olds, close your eyes, do you know what I mean? And tell me who you were before this lifetime.
Right.
Right, before you were born. And inevitably, they always had a really kind of spontaneous kind of answer. Right?
Yeah.
It's very easy because they don't have a filter on it. Very easy for the children to go into that. I don't actually recommend doing this because you don't want to stumble into a trauma, right?
Right.
Like, don't try this one at home.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can stumble into a trauma and you don't want to do that with a kid, right? I kind of knew what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see that there is very little filter on the young ones for that. So past life recall in children is not unusual at all.
Kids just say the darndest things, don't they?
They do.
I got a kid. This happened to me today, and it was. I have to admit, it made me laugh in a really dark kind of way. Okay. So one of the issues that my ex-wife and I have is that, well, she just doesn't really like how I see the world. Okay.
Right.
She thinks it's really damaging. All right. And we have a 6-year-old son, and trust me, I do everything in my power to elongate and prolong his innocence.
Right.
As I can. Right. He's a 6-year-old kid. I don't want him to be tainted by the world. There's plenty of time for it. Okay. And we've had a number of discussions about this. So today he ran in this kiddie triathlon today. All right. So here we are together. Our connection is strained already because we don't get along that well. But we're trying to keep a good face for our son and, give him a lot of encouragement. And they get all the kids together. They're talking just before they get in the pool. And the woman's giving the pep talk. She says, "Boy, look at all you guys. A lot of you have done triathlons. Boy, wouldn't it be great if President Obama were here to come and see this?" And and my kid says, "Yeah, we could invite the government." And he says, we can invite the government to come shoot us all.
Is that what he said?
Yes. And I'm like, oh no. I was like this, oh, and and here's my ex standing next to me. She goes, and I said, I swear to God, this did not come out of me. I've not been coaching him to say any of this stuff, okay? And she says, you have a choice. You have a choice. He can be somebody great if you want him to be. It was one of these moments, Katie, where I wanted to laugh really loudly. At the same time, I wanted to cringe. You know, it's like, where did the kid come up with that? You know.
Well, but your kid, I haven't met him, but I've seen pictures of your kid, right?
Yeah.
And his lights are on. Of
Yeah.
your child, his lights are on. So he's probably figured it out all by himself, for real. Right? You know, I think it must be in the DNA that you've passed down.
I guess, you know. I mean, I just thought, and I couldn't stop afterwards. I got to tell, I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, I thought it was actually really funny in a weird, you know, dark way. You know.
Yeah.
So
6 years old, huh?
6 years old, and it's the one thing that my ex did not want to hear come out of his mouth, right?
Yes.
I'm still kind of laughing at it. Yeah. Anyway, so how's your energy?
Anyway, where's his Pluto in his chart?
Oh, fifth house.
Fifth house?
Yeah.
Mhm. Interesting.
So Pluto and
Does he have
Sag in the fifth house.
Right. Mhm.
He's a risk taker.
Yeah. Nice kid.
He is a nice kid. You know, he's got Mercury, Sun conjunct Neptune, Mercury, Sun conjunct in Pisces in the ninth house.
Mhm.
So he's very philosophical. He's psychic. You know, the conjunction's really close. So he, you know, he's a little all over the place. You know, because of that close conjunction. But he's a good kid. A good kid.
Yeah.
Although I didn't tell you this a couple of weeks ago, he was kind of getting on my nerves.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm just trying to lighten it up a little bit. And I said, "Where did you come from? Where did you come from?" And he looked at me and says, "Well, I came from the son of Satan." I'm like, "Now where did that come from?" Great.
Yeah, I think
so who am I then? My God.
What did he say when you said, "Who am I then"?
No, I didn't say that to him. I was a little stunned, to be honest. I was a little stunned. I'm like, well, where did that come from? Oh, I don't know. Wasn't it funny? You know, it's like, oh. I think because he watches cartoons like Scooby-Doo and stuff like that, you know, I don't know. Man, I think that's where it came from.
Mhm.
But
well,
kids,
and also, if he is a little bit psychic, he's probably picking up a lot of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like even if you're not talking, right? He's probably picking up little bits and pieces here and there, right?
Yeah.
I think that's possible, and it's fine. He chose you as the dad.
Oh, I think it's a real interesting selection for sure.
Yeah. Very perfect.
So how's your energy holding up?
I'm okay, but if you want to wrap me up, we can wrap up. We've got 20 minutes left until the end of your 2 hours.
Now, there have been a few people that have tried to call in. I mean, you and I have just been chatting primarily here.
Mhm.
Do you want to take a call or two? Do you feel up to it?
Okay, let's do one. I'll do one. Okay.
All right. Okay, so listen, here's the number. It's 347-308-8995. You want to call in, ask Katie a question, have a comment. We got 19 minutes left in the show. We have time for at least one good call. So if you're going to call, bring it. Bring your A game and bring something to the table so we can talk about and ask Katie or me or just share. We just want you to share. 347-308-8995. 95. So let's talk a little bit more about you. See if we get somebody to fill in the void of the call space here. What do you got? What do you got going in the next 6 months? Are you going to get out and do some seminars, do some teaching, some talking? Because that's where I think you need to take your game. That for me personally, you know, I mean, I know that for you, you're dealing with a lot of energy stuff and just body stuff. But I really feel like I think I see a Katie Gallanti tour in the future here.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I've just had somebody contact me about doing something like that I am very reluctant to do, right?
Right.
And the reason for which I'm reluctant to do it, I used to teach in person, and I didn't like it very much, right? I mean, it was okay. I'm actually going to rephrase that, because I actually loved the students that came to see me, right? You know what I mean? Like, I really liked, but the whole get a workshop together, do the whole organization of doing that, and then I'm a Cancer, right? Like Moon in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, and I have the Moon on the ascendant, and I have a strong Neptune as well, right? I also have a strong Pluto and Uranus, but basically I am a very lunar creature. I'm a moon creature, right? Yeah. And for me to actually stand in front of a group of people, I feel all of their stuff, right? Yeah. So I have 50 people in front of me. I feel 50 people's stuff. It's not fun, right? Yeah. So my solution about 6 years ago was to say, I'm never doing this again. You know what I mean? I just got to a point where I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this again. I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm done putting myself through this process. But at the moment, I am feeling a call to start doing some teaching again. And what I am thinking about is there a medium through which I can do it where I do not have to do the room full of people? Mm-hmm. So one of the possibilities that I'm looking into is teleconference calls or web seminars, right? Yeah. Yeah. And I know that you think that I really should physically get out there and actually walk about and talk to people. Mm. And that may be, who knows? Do you know what I mean? If that is what I'm meant to be doing, I'm sure I'll end up doing it, right? Yeah. But I confess to a reluctance to doing it, and it's because I'm such a strong empath. I really am a very powerful empath. And being an empath is no fun. You know, people think it's fun to have certain gifts. I don't really consider it a gift. I'm not quite sure why I have it. Right. I'm sure it makes me, it makes me more intuitive in some ways, right? But it can create it has some side effects, right? Yeah. I'm very sensitive to energy, right? So, I don't know, but recently I had a lady from Nevada, right? That seems to want to have me actually go there physically and talk to her people on a regular basis. So I'm considering it, I'm weighing it up and seeing if it's something that I'm going to do or not. Yeah, well, I think the travel thing is going to be tricky for a lot of people moving forward, on so many levels. But I think you can still. I'm a big fan of traveling by land and right. Caravan and you can do really. Here's what I think would be really cool for you. I think if you could get people, like say, 15, 20 people, to be in water, in a small body of water, while you're talking to them, that would be very cool. Because because it would diffuse a lot of the energy, right? And all that Cancerian energy that you have, you could also use the water as sort of a tool for transmission. And I know of one place in Pismo, Avila Beach, that it's a natural spring, and it's like a small pool, and it's literally maybe 1.5 to 2 feet deep. Like you could do
hour and a half sessions with people just lounging around the water, getting healed while you're talking to them. I mean, I know it sounds a little, a little flaky, but I think it could actually be really cool.
Well, I will definitely consider it. I'll run it by my council, right? We can have the Katie Water seminars.
or you could do very small groups of like 4 or 5 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what Leonard Orr did with the rebirthing stuff. He would have 4 or 5 people, and he would go through the whole rebirth. I mean, you could have a highly select group of 4 or 5 people that you charge X amount of money for, and they get to have this really cool, nurturing, healing experience with very direct transmission. It's just a different kind of model. So we got somebody on the line who wants to talk, I guess, to you. We got another. Wow! All of a sudden, we're about to get off the air, and people are showing up. So let's take one call, and if it goes well, we'll see what happens with the other one. All right?
Okay. All right.
All right, here we go. Hi, you're on the air with Robert and Katie. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Hello, are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Oh, okay. I wanted to know if you guys were doing readings tonight.
That's going to happen on Wednesday. So come on back on Wednesday, and the reading shop will be open on Wednesday, okay?
Okay, cool.
All right, thanks a lot. See you then. Well, that was easy. Let's go to this one.
Okay, you can try the next one.
Yeah, you're on the air with Robert and Katie. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Hello?
Hi, Robert. Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hi.
Okay, that was my question if you're doing readings, but you're not. I do have a really strange question. I'm calling from Pennsylvania, and my name is Shay. How can you tell if you're spiritually connected to someone or not?
That's you, Katie.
Okay. Well, what do you mean by spiritually connected? Like, what is your understanding of spiritually connected?
Well, apparently my understanding is not understanding it.
And that's okay.
Which is like,
I mean, I really thought that I absolutely understood a lot of things, but I'm really starting to believe that maybe my beliefs are like, I don't know. I'm really confused right now. And I was told that somebody and I were very spiritually connected many times, and but on a physical level, the opposite, and they actually, So I'm really confused.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay. Well, basically, we can be spiritually connected to a lot of people. Our souls can be connected to a lot of people, right? And sometimes we can even have a situation where at the soul level you're very, very connected to somebody. But then in this lifetime, it may not be in the cards for you to do a hell of a lot of stuff together. Okay? All right. One of the ways in which you can tell if you have a connection with somebody at the soul level is to actually visualize. This is a bit advanced, okay? I'm making you do something advanced. But it may help with your confusion. If you visualize like your soul light actually on top of your head instead of it in your body, right? A few feet on top of your head, you imagine to have like a big light, that looks like a sun, that is actually the light of your soul, right? You can then visualize the other person and do the same for them, several feet on top of their head, see the light of their soul, and then see if there's an interaction between the two. Okay? Do you think you could do something like that?
I have done something like that, and yes, actually, yeah, definitely, without a doubt. It also came to me in my dreams.
Yes. So you may have a spiritual connection with this person but it may not be that does not necessarily always mean that you're going to have something that then manifests also on this plane, right? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so you still end up having to, having to connect with them in the physical body and to see how that goes, right?
Physically, we really got along very well, and there was a couple of misunderstandings, and actually a lot of it had to do with some karmic stuff that had to be worked out, because we've definitely been together like 20 lifetimes.
Okay. So in which case, then the answer to your question is you are spiritually connected, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that, okay.
You are, but that does not mean, does not guarantee you any outcome about the relationship on this level, okay? But you are spiritually connected, okay?
I was told also, now, we all know that everything does happen for a reason, whether it's good or bad, and everything has life lessons.
Yes.
What if before the outcome of whatever the outcome is, that a lot of, I'm going to say, not negative, but not exactly positive things had to be dealt with first before it could be reunited in the positive.
Right, yes. Yes, sometimes that occurs, okay? But I think in relationships, always, in a way, we have to be detached from outcome. You live your relationship in the now, deal with what is right in front of you, okay? And try to meet whatever that relationship is bringing you in the moment, all right? So if you are in challenge, deal with the challenge, and, obviously we always hope that the relationship is going to resolve and have a wonderful outcome, right? But in a way, if you can just stay in present time with it and deal with what is going on in present time, things will resolve better, okay?
Okay.
Right, because you don't know if you're meant to be with this person long term or not, right? You can only do your work in the moment, okay?
And also, I just want to interject something real quick, Katie. Being spiritually connected doesn't always mean that things are wonderful and blissed out. Like you could be spiritually connected to somebody, and it could be challenging, and that's part of your spiritual connection. That somehow you have to get through the thorns, the thicket of the thorns, to understand, whatever that purpose is that you've come together to work out or heal or love or blend or whatever that is. So try not to get hung up on the definition of spiritual either. I think that's really helpful.
Yes.
How would you find a solution to misunderstandings if you can't physically communicate? Definitely not a block on my part, but how would you go about finding a solution to regardless of the outcome, to at least make it? I'm not going to say make it or force it or anything like that, because I don't want to do anything like that, but how would you get it to where it was resolved and that it was something positive that helped both of us in the highest good?
Right. Well, on the physical plane, you cannot always resolve conflicts. That is just the way that it is. Like, there are some times in which if you are trying to resolve a conflict and the other person does not want to resolve a conflict, sometimes you have to resolve that conflict on your own. That means that in your own self, you resolve that conflict, right? But you then have to allow that the other person is choosing to not do that, right? So basically, how do you do it then? You go inside of yourself, and it's almost as if you resolve the karma on your end. And usually what I find is that You can talk to the person telepathically. You can talk to them in your mind. But usually, very often, it comes to a point where you have to surrender, right? Let go of the outcome again, and come to some kind of forgiveness, right? Where you literally say, it's okay, obviously you don't want to resolve this, and that's fine. And inside of myself, I will send you love and explain to you how I'm feeling, do you know what I mean? And find some resolution that is just my own personal, internal, right? Okay. And then sometimes when we do that, the person actually comes around in real life as well.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, like telepathically, I could honestly say, okay, that's fine. You don't want to resolve it, but I will continue to send love and light.
Yeah,
or just surrender to the situation. You just surrender and let it go, because there's a greater power, there's a greater love that can interact as an agency, and if the relationship is really supposed to get played out, it will, because we can't always manipulate circumstances to suit our psychological and emotional needs. At some point, we have to step back and allow God and nature and love to interact with us. And if that relationship is really supposed to coalesce, then it will. And if it's not meant to coalesce, then you bless it, and then you move on. And then now you're ready for somebody who may be more attuned to you on a physical level, who you can't communicate this stuff with. Because ultimately we're all one, and you're moving towards another connection towards the one within and the one without. It's just a different fractal.
Does it have anything to do with changing more thought patterns or anything like that, or is it basically just going within your own being and learning to forgive and let go?
In general, it could be a bit of both, but in your particular case, if it's okay, I'm just picking up psychic things about what you're talking about. In your particular case, I feel that it really, the learning here for you is really to surrender the outcome, do you know what I mean, and resolve it internally within yourself, and then to let it go and then let's see what happens. Okay?
Okay. Okay. I know that.
Hey, Shay. I'm sorry. We're going to have to cut this short because we're running out of time. And I think Katie's just giving you the magic bullet for this. So we wish you all the best, and we hope you work it out and come back and listen to the show and check in again someday. Okay?
Absolutely, and I want to thank you guys so much for taking my call. I appreciate it, and you really did help me. You really did, and thank you both.
Lots of love, sweetie, and you take care.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, bye-bye. Sorry, Katie, I had to get in there and play time ref. So,
no, but it's good. You're trained at this. I'm a newbie.
All right. So, hey,
happy for your direction.
The train has just pulled into the station. We took a 2-hour journey, and I want to thank you. I know it's been a challenging weekend, and just want to thank you for hanging out, spending time, and I hope it's been a positive experience for you, and I hope it's been positive for people out there.
It's very easy. You're a very, very gracious host.
Well, thank you. We've had a little bit of a workup towards this. Listen, get some rest tonight, and I'll see you back out there somewhere in the ethers, okay?
Okay, all right. Lots of love, Robert. We'll speak soon, okay?
Thanks, Katie. Good night.
All right, bye-bye.
Katie Gallanti, there she was. We're out of time here. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. You know the fire drill. Use your head to discern what's real, and your heart to open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to Far Sunday. Have a good Monday.